So you wrote a book. Now what? Hi, my name is Mehak Naresh. I am a reader and writer who has decided that I am going to pursue independent publishing. I have been thinking about this for a long time, and I've finally landed on independent publishing as a path. But I wanted to talk through a little bit more in depth as to why I've decided to do this, but also just kind of some of the options I considered. So first, I've been writing for a very long time, short stories, articles, novels, and my main project has been a novel, a young adult novel that I started writing about 7 years ago. Earnestly, I have probably written 7 drafts of this in 6-month spurts and fits, and just haven't ever really dedicated the time to getting it off the ground in any meaningful way. Last year, I took 6 weeks off of work. I got to take a sabbatical. And during that sabbatical, I rewrote basically the entire book, pulling all of the best parts from those 7 drafts. And in doing that, I basically got to a draft that I was really happy with and really comfortable with, but then I didn't know what to do with it. Part of me was trying to figure out whether or not I should query literary agents, and I knew that it wasn't long enough for me to query literary agents, so I needed to put more work into it. I had been staring at it for so long that I didn't quite know what else to add to the story. So I sat on it for basically a year. I haven't done anything with it in that time. I've had beta readers read it. To start from the beginning, have always wanted to write novels and always wanted to publish work. But as I've gotten older, have wanted a little bit more control over what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So that's part of the reason that I'm going with this path. So in traditional publishing, right? If I had decided to pursue this from a traditional standpoint, I would first find a literary agent. And so what that would look like is spending weeks upon months, sending letters and page samples to potential literary agents to see whether or not my book would find a home within a literary agent's portfolio. So typically the way that this works is that literary agents are hired to source a small portfolio. They source a portfolio that they sell to publishers. And so that being said, while there were people who met the criteria of this is what they are looking for, this is what I am looking for in a literary agent, it just never felt right. And if I were going to do it, I would have done it by now. But I just didn't end up really doing anything with it. So you would find a literary agent that could take years and hundreds of rejections. And then in theory, that book would then be sold to a publisher. That publisher would pay you in advance. And then that advance would carry you through the publishing process in the hopes of potentially earning out that advance. And then once you have earned out your advance, then you would write another book. You might publish a multiple book deal, or you might get a multiple book deal. But there are so many writers who do not earn out, who do not get a level of support from their publishing house. And that's, publishing is ultimately a business, right? And so as a business, they're going to pull the thing that is going to make the most money, and they're going to back the projects that are going to make the most money. And what that means is that they're going to put advertising dollars behind the thing that's going to make the most money. And it depends on distribution, right? So if I wanted my book in every bookstore in the country, I might go with traditional publishing. But these days, a lot of the times traditional publishers don't necessarily have the capacity to put a ton of marketing behind every book. So authors are left to market their own books, which is okay. But then also don't always have wide distribution. Some authors have a limited level of distribution to bookstores, traditional bookstores. And with more and more independent bookstores popping up and less of the big box stores as well, the longer I thought about it, the more I thought maybe I would go and explore independent publishing. And realistically, independent publishing can be done with very little money. You, in theory, just need to, make sure that it is beta read and proofread, and make sure that there aren't any inconsistencies within your writing, and that it's formatted correctly for a digital market. You could order some copies from Ingram Sparks, that sort of thing, and you could do independent publishing really cheaply. I have decided to go the route of investing a little bit of my own money into this process so that I can get the best outcomes for me. That has started for me with a developmental editor. So I've hired a developmental editor to go over my book, to comb through it, find opportunities for me to add to the story. I have spent many years very efficiently writing books. And so because I have spent a lot of time being very efficient with my writing, not just I write for a living outside of like writing books and writing articles and things like that. So because you have a very limited amount of space in the kind of writing that I do, I have not had the opportunity to expand and be as verbose as I typically had been in the past. And as such, that's affected my fiction writing as well. So I really want to spend time fleshing out the story, adding detail, adding description in a way that makes sense for the story. I go into a lot more detail on my blog as to the plan for independently publishing the book. But so far, I've had my book beta read. So far, I have hired a developmental editor. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some marketing and resources. But basically, I wanted to just kind of talk through some of the options and some of the reasoning as to why I'm planning on doing it this way. My goal ultimately is to build out some novels that spark joy for people, that people enjoy, and that are valuable to the reader, right? That people like. Write young adult fiction, primarily young adult romance, and I want to write diverse stories that make a difference in people's lives. So I think that there has been such a movement toward and such a push toward all levels of diversity in literature, which has been so meaningful and moving. And the bookshelves look radically different than they did many years ago when I was a teenager. So that's really exciting. But I don't know whether or not it makes sense to go in a direction that ultimately might take 2, 3, 4 more years to find a pathway forward when people are independently publishing books all the time. And something that is kind of interesting is that there are a lot of independent authors now who will get picked up by traditional publishers. They will publish a couple of books traditionally, and then they will say, actually, no, I want to independently publish again. There are some people who are really happy to have been picked up traditionally and are publishing books traditionally moving forward, and they really love that path. And they're happy with their back catalog, and that back catalog is not going to be picked up and republished by traditional, but they're able to work hybrid. And so there are no opportunities that are off the table, right? But what this is a desire to move forward, and forward momentum is important to me. What I'm hoping to do is take you along for the journey. And that's where the recording cut off. But thank you so much for watching, and thanks for coming along on this journey with me. If you liked the video, please do like it. And if you are interested in seeing more from me, please do subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.